It is a generally received notion that all of Shakespeare's plays are written in verse. In actual fact, only Richard II is entirely in verse. In the others, the writing shifts back and forth between verse and prose. But these shifts are all part of the journey Shakespeare's taking us on. They are clues to discovering character. You may be surprised to discover, as I was when Sis showed me, that prose also has its own very clear rhythm, though it's not always easy to immediately perceive. And then we'll be discovering and examining some dialogue to find out how characters connect through a shared vocabulary and a shared rhythm. We'll also see how the choices we make about what we're doing physically as we speak can open up yet other layers of meaning. And our final exercise in this program looks at a piece of modern text, a speech from Edward Bond's Lear, and shows how the techniques we've learned for speaking Shakespeare's language can be useful in opening up even present-day texts.
Let's look at some prose, or rather hear some prose, and discover something about its rhythm. It is not a formal rhythm like the iambic beat in the verse which we have been looking at. It is much more elusive than that, but it has a rhythm and a shape nevertheless, a rhythm and a shape which often defines the meaning. Shakespeare uses long and short phrases and juxtaposes them in a way that somehow evokes a response from us as we listen. His skill at building a speech with phrases of varying lengths can produce an effect, and that effect can be comic or ironic or sad.
Would I were with him wheresoever he is, either in heaven or in hell.
Nay, sure he's not in hell. He's in Arthur's bosom. If ever man went to Arthur's bosom and made a finer end, and went away and had been any Crispin child, parted even just between 12 and 1, even at the turning of the tide. For after I saw him fumble with the sheets and play with flowers and smile upon his fingers' end, I knew there was but one way. For his nose was as sharp as a pen, and a babble of green fields. How now, Sir John, quoth I. What, man, be of good cheer. And so I cried out, God, 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 3 or 4 times. Yeah, I to comfort him, bid him I should not think of God. I hope there was no need to trouble himself with such thoughts yet. So I bade me lay more clothes on his feet, and I put my hand into the bed, and I felt them, and they were as cold as stone. And then I felt to his knees. So upward and upward. And all was as cold as any stone. Well, the rhythm is so powerful, and I just kept cutting it.
Don't worry, because that's exactly what
because the emotion gets carried away. And
yeah, what did you hear from that?
It was terrible.
What?
Is that prose?
It's prose.
Prose.
Yes. Does it have a rhythm?
It does.
Yes.
And this is really important because it affects modern writing as well. Those moments, it comes like a psalm almost, you know, like the pointing in a psalm. It also works with comedy as well. I did a workshop once on King Lear, and in the workshop happened to be one of the actress's father, who is a stand-up comic in Scotland. And he was just amazed that the rhythm of the fool in Lear was exactly the rhythm that he used to get a laugh, to get his payoff lines, and it's still the same. Do you know, I mean, he knew very little about Shakespeare, he just was, but he was blown out by that. If you sat there And if you could, while you were reading it, which is going to be very difficult, I want you to draw what you see on that wall.
Should I keep in mind they're propelling it forward rather than...
Don't worry about anything.
Just up with the acting.
Yes. Just say the words Cathy, as you draw, as much as you can.
Say. No. No, sure he's not in hell. He's in Arthur's bosom, if ever man went to Arthur's bosom. I made a finer end and went away.
Drawing something is always a good exercise. You might construct the first house you lived in, or a building you love, something which draws out a personal response.
With the flowers and smile upon his finger's end, I knew there was but one way. For his nose was as sharp as a pen and babbled of green fields.
I asked Blythe to draw what she could see, partly to take her mind off the pressure of making sense of the text, but also to focus her on something visual outside herself. This made her more precise and more objective.
Bid him I should not think of God. I hope there was no need to trouble himself with any such thoughts yet. So I bade me lay more clothes on his feet. I put my hand into the bed and felt it. Them they were as cold as any stone. And then I felt to his knees. And so upward and upward, and all was as cold as any stone.
It's devastating.
Really?
Yeah. But you have to keep going forward, right? I mean, it has to keep.
I mean, it's still too many doing stops. That exercise when you're reading as well. It was brilliant because doing that took the responsibility of the emotion, and suddenly one heard how she was thinking. Instead of how she was feeling,
really? Yes,
how she was moving forward.
It's so hard to get away from.
I know.
Because that's what's so difficult about this for me. And Cathy was saying before, no, don't. I said, I can't unless I know the subtext or the emotional life of the character. I can't just see the words, but you have to.
But it's a two-way thing. It's that thing of doing one thing and then the other, and one feeding the other.
I still did too many stops.
Doesn't matter. It takes time to do this. It takes time to just let the emotion go. Let the emotion take care of itself. And when you're thinking of something in retrospect, the important thing is to be exact, isn't it? Is to be precise. She's very precise.
Yeah, you see, then my mind went back to, I better get back onto the word. And leave. It's so difficult. And leave the emotion now, and it comes in anyway.
Don't get worried about it. You've got to be doing both at once.
Say that again, what you just said before.
Well, sometimes it's good just to release the emotion and just get back to being absolutely precise and exact about. She's thinking back. What happened? I went there. I did this. And I felt up there. Now just do it again. Because it's so lovely. And don't be put off by that. Don't try for anything. Just do it.
Nay, sure, he's not in hell. He's in Arthur's bosom, if ever man went to Arthur's bosom. I made a finer end and went away, and it had been any christom child. I parted even just between 12 and 1, even at the turning of the tide. For after I saw...
It's great. Just take a little bit more space between each thought. Okay. It'll be helpful.
Nay, sure, he's not in hell. He's in Arthur's bosom, if ever man went to Arthur's bosom. I made a finer end, and went away, and it had been any christom child. I parted even just between 12 and 1. Even at the turning of the tide. Or after I saw him fumble with the sheets, and play with flowers, and smile upon his finger's end, I knew there was but one way. For his nose was as sharp as a pen, and a babbled of green fields. How now, Sir John, quoth I. What man, be of good cheer. So I cried out, God, 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 3 or 4 times. Now I, to comfort him, bid him I should not think of God. I hoped there was no need to trouble himself with any such thoughts yet. So I bade me lay more clothes on his feet. I put my hand into the bed and felt them, and they were as cold as any stone. Then I felt to his knees, and so upward, and all was as cold as any stone.
Oh, brilliant, yes.
No, I didn't quite
Can you feel it's beginning to come together,
Yeah,
your feelings from the beginning and that thing, you know?
Yeah,
that's great.
Pick up and go on its own now.
Yes, it's really
holding.
lovely, and it's not to say don't have emotion, but it's just, the emotion just has to, has got to come from, you can't suppress it any longer, do you see, rather than start out being emotional. Does that make sense? Yes.
It makes it more devastating that it isn't emotional. If it's, when you did it that time, it was quite so straight. And in a way, it's much more moving because what she's saying is so personal, what happened to her, that's enough in a way. The simpler it is in that way, the more upsetting it is, because people do that, don't they? If something terrible's happened to them, there's a kind of weird calm they have about them. The way they describe in detail what happened.
Exactly, yeah. I mean,
but also it's like a well-told story, or if you're telling a joke, you don't want to be kind of going, you're going to really like, this is a really funny joke, it's really funny. So when you read it actually the last 2 times, I felt like I was you, or that I was standing next to you as you were taking me through this journey, and therefore your pain at the end was a surprise.
When people die, and somebody says, were you there? And then you start saying, yeah, and he was, and how was he? And somebody tells the story of how this person died. Yes. It's generally never, oh, he was just,
it's afterwards.
It's afterwards.
Yes.
And you're drawn into the woman because of the incidental stuff she tells you.
You have to define that, don't you, to keep yourself sane,
Those are things
really.
that people can share.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone can think, oh, he looked like that, and he said that, and it's a way in for everybody.
Smiled at his fingers end.
Yeah.
I think it's what I was thinking too strongly of character when I was beginning, thinking this woman's different than me, and I have to...
Don't say that.
I love the idea of his nose being as sharp as a pen.
Yes.
It's so vivid, and
I didn't understand what that was in the beginning, but you used to tell me it was because it was so cold.
yes.
Is that
like
right?
the crazy things that people remember about
Yeah.
people, but people who've died, you explain them in a funny way that make you laugh almost.
I remember when the Piper Alpha oil rig blew up in Scotland, and they were talking to the guys who had survived. And one guy, when he was describing how he survived, the way he described it was, he said, I did a beautiful swan dive off of the shelf. And I thought, that's incredible that you're running and there's the whole panic and you're running to save your life. And what you most remember is that it was a beautiful swan dive. So imagine this guy kind of going, there's flames blowing up, people are dying, his friends are melting in front of him, and he runs to the edge, and what he remembers is how beautiful his dive was. And it was just incredible. And
That says everything, doesn't it, about where somebody is at. It's where our images are at.
What helped about the exercise for me is, I know if I'm describing a death, which I did yesterday with Tony Goldwyn, we were both in the room when somebody died, it's such a precious, bigger than human experience. It's almost like you wouldn't dare say, and then this happened. You feel like I have to be a perfect channel for this and not interpret, because it's so much bigger than I even get, that I'm going to tell you what the room looked like, what it felt like, and I wouldn't dare get in the middle of it, and that's, I think, why the simpler it was, the more it was unbearable.
The way she tells a story, you kind of get the fact that she actually misses the moment when he dies. She's getting the blankets. She said, he did this, and then I did this, and then... But you kind of work out that she actually was probably
moment.
picking up the blankets.
It's a wonderful, awful thing that he bade her put blankets on him, but then when she felt him, that was the moment when he went.
And that she's following death up his body.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We all miss that moment, don't we? What is that moment when that breath stops? Very good. Thank you. Now to another piece of prose with a quite different sound, nothing poetic or extravagant in the language, but in its understated precision, it speaks volumes. I want to continue now with this thing about prose. I just want you to listen to something. Come a little bit forward, and Paul is going to be Brutus, and Trellis is going to be Cassius. Actually, don't read it at the moment. Just listen and see what you hear. Hear what you see.
But soft, I pray you. What, did Caesar swoon?
He fell down in the marketplace and foamed at the mouth and was speechless.
It is very like. He hath the falling sickness.
No, Caesar hath it not. But you and I, and honest Casca, we have the falling sickness.
I know not what you mean by that, but I'm sure Caesar fell down. If the tag rope people did not clap him and kiss him according as he pleased and displeased them, as they used to do the players in the theatre, I am no true man.
But what said he when he came unto himself?
Marry, before he fell down, when he perceived the common herd was glad he refused the crown, he plucked me up his doublet and offered them his throat to cut. And I had been a man of any occupation, if I would not have taken him at a word, I might go to hell among these rogues. And so he fell. When he came to himself again, he said if he had done or said anything amiss, he desired their worships to think it was his infirmity. 3 or 4 wenches where I stood cried, "Alas, good soul," and forgave him with all their hearts. But there's no heed to be taken of them. If Caesar had stabbed their mothers, they would have done no less.
And after that, he came thus sad away?
Aye.
Did Cicero say anything?
Aye. He spoke Greek.
To what effect?
Nay, and I'll tell you that. I'll ne'er look you at the face again. But those that understood him smiled at one another and shook their heads. But for mine own part, it was Greek to me. But I could tell you more news too. Morellus and Flavius, for pulling scarves of Caesar's images, are put to silence. Fare you well. There was more foolery yet, if I could remember it.
Will you sup with me tonight, Casca?
No, I am promised forth.
Will you dine with me tomorrow?
Aye, if I be alive, and your mind hold, and your dinner worth eating.
I will expect you.
Do so. Farewell, both.
Oh, it's so loaded.
You know, like,
Treading on a tightrope.
and it's like they're feeling each other out very subtly, kind of maneuvering round. It's sort of like as if they're circling one another. You know, it's like.
And it's the care of those words, isn't it? They become quite ominous in a way, don't they? But the humour is wonderful too, because it is the only way you survive.
What, did Caesar swoon?
They are down in the marketplace and foamed at the mouth and was speechless.
It is very like. He hath the falling sickness.
Working around a table like this and changing chairs as the thoughts change is really good, for it tells us so much about how we are relating to the other character or characters, whether we are being direct with them or evasive, what our purpose is, how close we feel to them at any given point. It somehow reveals the internal politics of the scene.
Clap him and hiss him according as he pleased and displeased them, as they used to do the players in the theatre. I am no true man.
But what said he when he came unto himself?
Mary, before he fell down, when he perceived the common head was glad he refused the crown, he plucked me up his doublet and offered them his throat to cut. And I had been a man of any occupation, if I had not have taken him at a word, I might go to hell among the rogues. And so he fell. And when he came to himself again, he said, if he had done or said anything amiss, he desired their worship to think it was his infirmity. 3 or 4 wenches where I stood cried, alas, good soul, and forgave him with all their hearts. But there's no heed to be taken of them. If Caesar had stabbed their mothers, they would have done no less.
After that, he came thus sad away.
Aye.
Did Cicero say anything?
Aye, he spoke Greek.
To what effect?
Nay, and I'll tell you that. Now, I ne'er look you in the face again. But those that understood him smiled at one another and shook their heads. But for mine own part, it was Greek to me. I could tell you more news too. Morellus and Flavius, for pulling scarfs of Caesar images, are put to silence. Fare you well. There was more foolery, yet I could remember it.
Will you sup with me tonight, Casca?
No, I'm promised forth.
Will you dine with me tomorrow?
Aye, if I be alive. And your mind hold. And your dinner worth eating.
Good. I will expect you.
Do so. Very well, both.
Great. What about that?
It's this kind of suspension in the language all the time. It's kind of it's like you're sitting on the fence.
And yet throwing it away at the same time, isn't it?
And it was almost the sense that you had 3 people with very clear agendas.
Yes.
And the centre of it was George, who had to take on board who was asking him. It wasn't just the question, it was who was asking him the question, what is that person's agenda? Okay, now I can answer it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't only that they were being heard within their conversation, it was also his answers to the other people in the...
And so it's always the spaces, isn't it, that tell the story. It's quite useful to do it round the table, you see, because you sort of find where you need to be in relation to the other person.
Seems quite modern in a way.
It's very modern, yes.
Is
that the right
But
word?
I got from watching this at the table the fact that Casca kind of needs them too. That for the first time I saw you pursuing them.
Yeah,
every
it was
now and
great,
then.
yes.
When in fact
yeah.
I always just thought of the scene as those two going after him. When in fact they have moments where they kind of put their hands in the air and he says, oh, but wait, I do want to actually talk about this.
The emotional undercurrent comes through the phrasing of it, through the different lengths of sentences, of phrases, and the short ones, and the spaces between them. And if you invest it with too much feeling, we don't hear that. And actually the emotional undercurrent is in those spaces, isn't it? Is in the rhythm of it. Prose is much more difficult in a way to grasp, isn't it? Then, I mean, it's easy to see what is a line of poetry. It's not so apparent in prose. The next scene also shows 3 characters in a dangerous situation. They are followers of Richard II, and now the king has fled to Ireland. They are in danger from Bolingbroke. The underlying danger is similar to the Casca scene, and this again is manifested in the shared rhythms, but this time it is in verse. Listen to how they develop their argument, how they build their ladders of thought. We hear the tension as their rhythms quicken and the pitch gets slightly higher. It's after Gaunt has died in Richard II, and Richard II has taken over all Gaunt's property. These are 3 defectors, basically.
The wind sits fair for news to go to Ireland, but none returns. For us to levy power proportionable to the enemy is all impossible.
Besides, our nearness to the king in love is near the hate of those love not the king.
And that is the wavering commons. For their love lies in their purses, and whoso empties them by so much fills their hearts with deadly hate.
Wherein the king stands generally condemned.
If judgment lie in them, then so do we, because we ever have been near the king.
Well, I will to refuge, straight to Bristol Castle. The Earl of Wiltshire is already there.
Thither will I with you. For little office will the hateful commoners perform for us, except like curs to tear us all to pieces. Will you go along with us?
No. I will to Ireland, to his majesty. Farewell. If heart's presages be not vain, we three here part, that ne'er shall meet again.
That as York thrives to beat back Bolingbroke.
Alas, poor Duke, the task he undertakes is numbering sands and drinking oceans dry. Where one on his side fights, thousands will fly.
Farewell at once for all and ever.
Well, we may meet again.
I fear me never.
It's like a chorus almost, isn't it? There's quite a music to it. Instead of being like the Brutus speech that we did and found the ladders of reasoning through that, just try and hear how they progress with their reasoning. Let's all read it once together. Right. The wind, go. The wind sits fair for news to go to Ireland, but none returns.
For us to levy power proportionable to the enemy
is all impossible. Besides, our
nearness to the king in love
is near the hate of those who love not the king. And that is the wavering commons, for their love lies in their purses, and whoso empties them by so much fills their hearts with deadly hate, wherein the king stands generally condemned. If judgment lie in them, then so do we, because we never have been near the king. Well, I will for refuge straight to Bristol Castle. The Earl of Wiltshire is already there. Thither will I with you, for little office will the hateful commoners perform for us, except like curs to tear us all to pieces. Will you go along with us? No. I will to Ireland, to his majesty. Farewell. If heart's presages be not vain, we three here part, and ne'er shall meet again. That's as York thrives to beat back Bolingbroke. Alas, poor Duke, the task he undertakes is numbering sands and drinking oceans dry. Where one on his side fights, thousands will fly. Farewell at once, for all and ever. Well, we may meet again. I fear me never.
It's like a kind of chamber piece. It's like
Yes.
like a string quartet. all
It is, isn't
answering
it?
each other.
Yes. It's one voice, really, isn't it? And you've got to go with its rhythm.
Yeah, it's
Do you
a
feel
totally
that?
different energy than the casket
Yeah.
scene from Caesar. It's total. It seems like much more the time is of the element, and
Yeah.
some decisions have to be made right now at this table.
Yes.
They all know that they're all on the same side. They've they've come together, and although you expect them maybe all to go off together, one fractures. I mean, it's a split, and maybe it's the first sign of the King's party disintegrating.
In this one, it seems that, especially the way the lines are set, that they all share the same rhythm.
That gives that unity you're talking about, like as a chamber piece.
Yes.
They're all working to the same end.
Yes. Toby and Lennie, can you walk at random up and down that side and you that side?
Right.
When they are between those two markers there and these two markers here, you have to stop speaking. So you're in three.
The wind sits fair for news to go for Ireland, but none returns. For us to levy power proportionable to the enemy is all impossible.
Besides, our nearness to the king. Besides, our Our nearness to the king in love is near the hate of those that love not the king.
That is the wavering commons, for their love lies in their purses, and whoso empties them by so much fills their hearts with deadly hate.
Wherein the king stands generally condemned.
If judgment lie in them, then so do we, because we ever have been near the king.
Well, I will for refuge straight to Bristol Castle. The Earl of Wiltshire is already there.
Thither will I with you. Office can the hateful commoners perform for us except like curs to tear us all to pieces? Will you go along with us?
No. I will to Ireland to his majesty. I will to Ireland to his majesty. Farewell. If heart's presages be not vain, we three here part that ne'er shall meet again.
That's as York thrives to beat back Bolingbroke.
Alas, poor Duke. The task he undertakes is numbering sands and drinking oceans dry. Where one on his side fights, thousands will fly.
Farewell at once. For once, for all and ever.
Well, we may meet again.
I fear me never.
Yeah. That was why, yes. That was terrific. The words themselves are precious, they're dangerous.
That's right.
They're not easy to say. And they're very guarded and very, inquiring about each other because they don't quite know. You never know in that kind of society, who is going to be with you. And that this is the area that we quite find difficult to enter at the moment because we live in a fairly free society, but it is actually that thing of life and death there all the time.
A while ago you said something about that there's no full stop till the end of the play.
Yeah.
And how it's, in fact, it's not necessarily about stopping speaking or words, it's just that the energy that there were so many huge pauses in that scene, and yet the vitality of it never dropped.
Yes.
And
the
I think
suspense was going all the time.
And I think you're right. For the entire, whatever play it is, that's got to stay in the air.
Because whatever you say, even if in the middle of your own soliloquy, you're provoking the next thought.
Right.
You're waiting for that next moment. And that everything you say is slightly altering things. You can't take it back.
When they said, will you come with us? And he said no. And then there was a really long break before he said why. And that was so kind of full of, were they enemies? Were they, it was really, it was so full.
Mm.
And it takes the responsibility away from the actors to decide what is secret and what isn't secret, what is important and what isn't important. The thing that seemed to really inform that scene is that actually every single thing they said was dangerous. And also you saw a camaraderie between them because they were protecting each other's words. So that, even if somebody was speaking, they didn't see the person go past, the other person would go...
Yeah.
And
looking after each other.
Yeah.
And they were so dependent on these two men over here that they couldn't decide what moment in the piece they were going to hit because it was all up in the air.
You can't decide. And, as actors, you have to decide at some point. But it's still, you've got to leave things open as well, haven't you?
Yeah, you decide after you've explored. So often you decide before you've gotten a chance to explore what the possibilities are. You have to make decisions about, the whole part before you even...
It's so good when there's an element in it which you can't predict.
Yeah.
Because it's in verse, things can get kind of predictable.
Exactly, yes.
There's an element you think you're not sure what's going to happen next, and everything stays
And somehow we've got to always keep that anarchy open, haven't we? That subversiveness open. I mean, because all the language is subversive in a way, isn't it? It sort of erupts all the time. Now to another scene where there is also a shared rhythm, but for a totally different reason. The two characters are deeply in love. They share their feeling as they share their verse, their language. What we're hearing is how, in a way, the phrasing and the length of phrasing and the rhythm of it leads us into a character and the character of the scene as well as your individual characters. So now let's listen to Hermia and Lysander. And just listen, it's very poetic, obviously, heightened poetry.
How now, my love, why is your cheek so pale? How chance the roses there do fade so fast?
Belike for want of rain, which I could well beteem them from the tempest of my eyes.
Ay me, for aught that I could ever read, could ever hear, by tale or history, the course of true love never did run smooth. But either it was different in blood,
Oh, cross, too high to be enthralled to low.
or else misgraft in respect of years,
Spite, too old to be engaged to young.
or else it stood upon the choice of friends.
Oh, hell, to choose love by another's eyes.
Or if there were a sympathy in choice, war, death, sickness did lay siege to it, making it momentary as a sound, swift as a shadow, short as any dream, brief as the lightning and the collied night, that in a spleen unfolds both heaven and earth, and ere a man hath power to say, behold, the jaws of darkness do devour it up. So quick, bright things come to confusion.
If then true lovers have been ever crossed, it stands as an edict in destiny. Then let us teach our trial patience, because it is a customary cross, as due to love as thoughts and dreams and sighs, wishes and tears, poor fancy's followers.
A good persuasion. Therefore hear me, Hermia. If thou lovest me, then steal forth thy father's house tomorrow night, and in the wood, a league without the town, where I did meet thee once with Helena to do observance to a morn of May. There will I stay for thee.
My good Lysander, I swear to thee by Cupid's strongest bow, by his best arrow with the golden head, by the simplicity of Venus' doves, by that which knitteth souls and prospers loves, and by that fire which burned the Carthage queen when the false Troyan under sail was seen, by all the vows that ever men have broke, and number more than ever woman spoke. In that same place thou hast appointed me, tomorrow truly will I meet with thee.
Keep promise, love. Look, here comes Helena. Do I totally contradict? What is she saying? Yes, I see. We should be patient. And I say, yeah, good idea. Let's get the hell out of here.
Yes,
Is that what happens?
yes, but that's
Is he
what
just not
happens when
listening
you,
to her, or does he?
Well, that's what happens in love, isn't it? I mean, yes.
Oh, great, a good persuasion. Okay. I mean, it's just, he doesn't even... I guess what threw me is the I me then.
I would like you to say the last 2 or 3 words of the line that has already been said to you.
Okay.
So you might say fade so fast, and then belike for want of rain, and then you might say tempest of my eyes. Okay. So we hear how the argument goes.
Okay. How now, my love? Why is your cheek so pale? How chance the roses there to fade so fast?
Fade so fast. Belike for want of rain, which I could well beteem them from the tempest of my eyes.
Tempest of my eyes. Ay me. For aught that I could ever read, could ever hear, by tale or history, the course of true love never did run smooth. But either it was different in blood.
Different in blood.
This exercise can be done with any piece of dialogue to find its essential rhythm and movement.
Or else
When I talk about the music, what I really mean is that they take on each other's rhythm and respond to the other person's note and lift it as the thought develops and becomes emotionally heightened and as they become closer.
Another's eyes. Or if there were a sympathy
in choice. War, death, or sickness did lay siege to it, making it momentary as a sound, swift as a shadow, short as any dream, brief as the lightning and the collied night that in a spleen unfolds both heaven and earth, and ere a man hath power to say, behold the jaws of darkness to devour it up. So quick, bright things come to confusion.
Bright things come to confusion. If then true lovers have been ever crossed, it stands as an edict in destiny. Then let us teach our trial patience, because it is a customary cross, as due to love as thoughts and dreams and sighs, wishes and tears, poor fancy's followers.
Fancy's followers. A good persuasion. Therefore, hear me, Hermia. I have a widow aunt, a dowager, of great revenue, and she hath no child. From Athens is her house remote 7 leagues, and she respects me as her only son. There, gentle Hermia, may I marry thee, and to that place the sharp Athenian law cannot pursue us. If thou lovest me, then steal forth thy father's house tomorrow night, and in the wood, a league without the town, where I did meet thee once with Helena to do observance to a morn in May. There will I stay for thee.
There will I stay for thee. My good Lysander, I swear to thee by Cupid's strongest bow, by his best arrow with the golden head, by the simplicity of Venus' doves, by that which knit the souls and prospers loves, and by that fire which burned the Carthage queen when the false Troyan under sail was seen, by all the vows that ever men have broke, and number more than ever woman spoke. In that same place thou hast appointed me. Tomorrow truly will I meet with thee.
Meet with thee. Keep promise, love. Look, here comes Helen.
What about that?
Wonderful.
Thought, yeah.
Diving board. Like where
Yes.
exactly am I going from? Of course, it's like the most moronic part of of being an actor for me. But forgetting that I'm listening to the other person.
Right.
Like, it's the oldest problem in the book of like, what's my next line, as opposed to, what is she saying to me?
Right.
But it's also being able to hear that and really reply to that.
And
it was amazing.
It was interesting to realize how my first line was so directly related to his last one, whether I was agreeing with it or not.
Yes.
But it motivated me to really.
And it gives it a different energy all the time, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I also love how she just goes off on like Cupid and Venus and Troy and Carthage, and I'm thinking, I don't give a shit about any of that. I mean, I'm like so factual. I'm like, look, I have a wife, I have this aunt, she has money, she has no kids. We can go to this house, and she starts going off on Venus and the Carthage queens. It's beautiful. I have a widow aunt, a dowager of great revenue, and she hath no child. From Athens is her house remote 7 leagues, and she respects me as her only son. There, gentle Hermia, may I marry thee, and to that place the sharp Athenian law cannot pursue us. If thou lovest me, then steal forth thy father's house tomorrow night, and in the wood, league without the town, where I did meet thee once with Helena to do observance to a morn in May. There will I stay for thee.
My good Lysander, I swear to thee by Cupid's strongest bow, by his best arrow with the golden head, by the simplicity of Venus' doves, by that which knitteth souls and prospers love, and by that fire which burned the Carthage queen when the false Troyan under sail was seen, by all the vows that ever men have broke, and number more than ever woman spoke. In that same place thou hast appointed me. Tomorrow truly will I meet with thee.
Keep promise, love. Look, here comes Helena.
Godspeed, fair Helena. Whither away?
Call you me fair? That fair again on say. Demetrius loves your fair. Oh, happy fair. Your eyes are lodestars, and your tongue's sweet air more tunable than lark to shepherd's ear. When wheat is green, when hawthorn buds appear. Sickness is catching. Oh, a favour so. Yours would I catch, fair Helena, Hermia, ere I go. My ear should catch your ear. My voice, my eye, your eye. My tongue should catch your tongue's sweet melody. Were the world mine, Demetrius being baited. The rest I'd give to you to be translated. Teach me how you look, and with what art you sway the motion of Demetrius's heart.
I frown upon him, yet he loves me still.
But your frowns would teach my smiles much skill.
I give him curses, yet he gives me love.
Oh, that my prayers could your affection move.
The more I hate, the more he follows me.
The more I love, the more he hated me.
His folly, Helena, is no fault of mine.
None but your beauty. Would that fault were mine.
Take comfort, he no more shall see my face. Lysander and myself will fly this place. Before the time I did Lysander see, seemed Athens as a paradise to me. Oh, then what graces in my love do dwell, that he hath turned a heaven unto a hell.
The music is beginning to come. I know we would have to work on it.
It does feel like as soon as she comes, it's there like boom.
Yeah.
And
it happens in the sound of it, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
They started out, you had such different rhythms. It was like you were playing this note, she was playing this note, and then by the time he started to talk about the aunt, you set another pace and she caught right into it, and it was like then it was the same note. It was like both of them went together.
It's interesting because in the play, it's just when, you know, Hermia's getting interested in guys and Helena's getting interested in guys and he's getting interested in girls. So there's this conflict between the two of them.
Yeah.
She's really close to him, but also really close to her. And their friendship is under jeopardy because of guys, suddenly, you know.
It's such a timeless thing that, you know, you're in love, your girlfriend comes.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah.
You know, it's so modern and so familiar.
It is.
And suddenly the guy's going.
You can hear how the music of the scene lifts through, can't you? That it's not, you know, one speech and then another speech and answering it and come to... It's actually always going on and it's lifting it through in a way, lifting the sense through, so it keeps the suspense and that keeps the music going. And that's what interests us. And this is what is difficult now because we don't hear that so much in our heads, do we? It isn't quite so much there.
I know for me, when I have a definite thing I'm trying to make clear, speeches can go on for pages and I'll be fine.
Yeah.
But in general, you're right. The words, they use so many words that until you've really gotten specific with them,
absolutely.
I tend to not know what to do with my hands.
Now, can we just go to Helena's speech? Instead of doing a dialogue like we did in the same way as with some of the others, can you just do one line each, but keep it going, you know, keep the whole thing going, answering, as it were, your thoughts.
How happy some or other some can be.
Through Athens, I am thought as fair as she.
But what of that? Demetrius thinks not so.
He will not know what all but he do know.
And as he errs, doting on Hermia's eyes.
So I, admiring of his qualities.
This is one soliloquy, but I want two people to read it to bring out the debate going on in Helena's head. She has to work through her dilemma and come to some decision as to what to do. This is important in any soliloquy. How do we think, and when do we make up our minds?
Wings and no eyes figure unheedy haste.
And therefore is love said to be a child?
Because in choice he is so oft beguiled.
As waggish boys themselves in game forswear.
So the boy love is perjured everywhere.
For ere Demetrius looked on Hermia's eye,
he hailed down oaths that he was only mine.
And when this hail some heat from Hermia felt,
so he dissolved and showers of oaths did melt.
I will go tell him of fair Hermia's flight.
And to the wood will he tomorrow night
pursue her. And for this intelligence,
if I have thanks, it is a dear expense.
But herein mean I to enrich my pain.
To have his sight thither and back again.
It's quite interesting.
But she's so lonely that now she's not.
Become such good friends to each other. I don't think she gets bitter. I didn't feel bitterness. I felt an over-romanticizing. You know, she's been hurt, but then you can't help but still like the person.
It's like as long as she can keep following him, she's alive. As long as she can scale some mountain and keep pursuing him, she's breathing.
There is something so full of life about her that she's, you know, I mean, intoxicated, really.
The end of each thought does really lead to the next thought. I mean, unheedy haste, the next thought is about a child, a hasty child. Beguiled, the next thought is about the child, and then game leads to perjured, and perjured leads to he promised me, and promised me leads to the oaths melt, and each one does really, yeah.
Would you like each to do it once yourselves? Yes. Right. Okay. You go. Move round the circle behind us.
How happy some or other some can be.
Cathy is moving round with her thoughts so that she can discover where they are taking her. Where is her mind going? This will take the last exercise we did a stage further.
He will not know what all but he do know. And as he errs, doting on Hermia's eyes, so I, admiring of his qualities, things base and vile, holding no quantity, love can transpose to form and dignity. Love looks not with the eyes, but with the mind, and therefore is winged Cupid, painted blind. Nor hath love's mind of any judgment, taste, wings, and no eyes, figure unheedy haste. And therefore is love said to be a child, because in choice he is so oft beguiled, as waggish boys themselves in game forswear. So the boy love is perjured everywhere. For ere Demetrius looked on Hermia's eyne, he hailed down oaths that he was only mine. And when this heat, when this hail some heat from Hermia felt, so he dissolved, and showers of oaths did melt. I will go tell him of fair Hermia's flight. Then to the wood will he tomorrow night pursue her. And for this intelligence, if I have thanks, it is a dear expense. But herein mean I to enrich my pain, to have his sight thither and back again.
Yeah, great. The argument is really coming. Now, what I'd like with you is that you differentiate between what is happening now and what the almost metaphysical idea of things about qualities and quantities, when you get philosophical about it. So move between those two. You can also do it behind. It's rather nice doing that behind. But just know when you're going from how happy, which is the present, as it were, and through Athens, right, all those things.
Till she's philosophical.
And then when she starts to philosophize, come into the center.
Okay.
That'd be rather nice. This is your kind of inner life in here.
How happy some or other some can be. Through Athens, I am thought as fair as she. But what of that? Demetrius thinks not so. He will not know what all but he do know. And as he errs, doting on Hermia's eyes, so I, admiring of his qualities. Things base and vile, holding no quantity, love can transpose to form and dignity. Love looks not with the eyes, but with the mind, and therefore is winged Cupid painted blind. Nor hath love's mind of any judgment taste, wings and no eyes figure unheedy haste. And therefore is love said to be a child, Because in choice he is so oft beguiled. As waggish boys in game themselves forswear, so the boy love is perjured everywhere. For ere Demetrius looked on Hermia's eyne, he hailed down oaths that he was only mine. And when this hail some heat from Hermia felt, so he dissolved, and showers of oaths did melt. I will go tell him of fair Hermia's flight. Then to the wood will he tomorrow night pursue her. And for this intelligence, if I have thanks, it is a dear expense. But herein mean I to enrich my pain, to have his sight thither and back again.
Yes. So all those things are happening in there, aren't they? All those things about time which you have, which Lysander had, you know, the brief lightning in the cold night and everything. It's also making us think about ourselves in relation to, you know, the universe.
It helps you own it, because I know working on it, you think, oh, here comes the part where I'm an expert on something suddenly. But if you go, all right, actually now I'm an expert on this one horrible part of love.
Yes.
You own it, sort of.
Yes.
It makes it a little better. Do you know what I mean?
So it's also, it's about imagination and what we do and how we, you know, and everybody's imagination is just amazing, isn't it? We can't ever enter into anybody else's.
I didn't feel that. I felt I was at the mercy of it. The love, this big thing that I was in, was, you know, I was at the mercy of it. The way you played it.
It's so funny.
A lot more.
Because I felt like, okay, I'm an expert on this one horrible thing. That's what makes it.
You're going to get him.
Every speech in Shakespeare is about the present, about action, but it is constantly being fed by the character's own inner world. Listen now to this speech of Lady Macbeth. She has just heard the news that Duncan, the king, is coming to stay in the castle.
The raven himself is hoarse, that croaks the fatal entrance of Duncan under my battlements. Come, you spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, unsex me here, and fill me from the crown to the toe top full of direst cruelty. Make thick my blood. Stop up.
The images she uses tell us exactly where she is, deep inside herself. All the images are of her body. How the words she uses empower her purpose.
Come to my woman's breasts and take my milk for gall, you murdering ministers. Wherever in your sightless substances you wait on nature's mischief. Come, thick night, and pall thee in the dunnest smoke of hell, that my keen knife see not the wound it makes, nor heaven peep through the blanket of the dark to cry, hold, hold.
What do you get from that?
There's no downtime.
There isn't any downtime, is there? Yes.
It kind of feeds itself, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I was so frightened of doing this speech because I've never played this character, nor have I ever played anything quite like her. And the first time I read it, and I thought, oh, I'll just stay with that, is she's trying to grab the courage, and she knows, I mean, she's so ambitious, and she so wants these things for her and for her husband. But it was astonishing to me because I just read it for the sense of it the first time, just to myself at home, and I thought, man, she doesn't have all this courage. She doesn't know if she has it all, you know? She's...
Yeah. It's just, where are these images coming from? What
the images?
Yes.
I didn't get the image. I got that you were so clear and that
Really?
you knew where you were going.
Grim
You
determination.
knew who to, you knew who to go and ask, and you knew exactly what to ask for.
Oh, really?
Okay, I'll go with that.
All right. Okay.
The other thing is it seems that there's so many one-syllable words
Yeah.
in this. And I don't know why.
It's my blood.
And
yes.
there's the consonants are so
stark, you know, and it's so
We got all
unlike.
that, didn't we? I mean, we really did. We got that actual form and how it really took us without it being like, you know, well spoken, as it were. Do you know what I mean? What I'd like you to do, if you can, while still reading it, I'd like us to get some stuff in the, like boxes and things in the middle. What I want her to do is build like an altar.
Okay. Cicely, I don't know if we can so much we can do here.
The raven himself is horse that croaks the fatal entrance of Duncan under my battlements. Come, you spirits that tend on mortal thoughts. Unsex me here. Fill me from the crown to the toe top full of direst cruelty. Make thick my blood. Stop up the access and passage to remorse, that no compunctious visitings of nature shake my fell purpose. Nor keep peace between the effect and it. Come. Come to my woman's breasts and take my milk for gall, you murdering ministers. Wherever in your sightless substances you wait on nature's mischief, come thick night and pour thee in the dunnest smoke of hell, that my keen knife sees not the wound it makes, nor heaven peep through the blanket of the dark to cry, hold, hold! Couldn't figure out a way to keep his chair up.
Yeah, I know.
I thought I'd just hold it.
That was really good that you could. You were sort of taken off guard and didn't know what to do.
It's not gonna work.
Yeah.
The tower is so
Yes. Yes. This speech is about ambition, building towards some sort of ideal. And I wanted Kate to build an altar because while she was building it and improvising it, she was also searching for things to build it with. And when you're speaking those words, you are also searching for the words to express the thought. The ambition grows as the structure grows. Now, you can use variations on this exercise for other purposes, other passions. You can build an altar to love, to hate, to despair, to joy. This scene from Macbeth, it's center scene, I think. He has done the deed and is shocked by what he has done. Lady Macbeth has to revive his ambition and resolve. Their complicity and guilt are so apparent in their shared rhythms, their shared lines.
Alack, I am afraid they have awaked and 'tis not done. The attempt and not the deed confounds us. Hark! I laid their daggers ready, he could not miss them. Had he not resembled my father as he slept, I had done it. My husband.
I've done the deed. Didst thou not hear a noise?
I heard the owl scream and the crickets cry. Did not you speak?
When?
Now.
As I descended?
Aye.
Hark! Who lies in the second chamber?
Donald Bain.
This is a sorry sight.
A foolish thing to say, a sorry sight.
As one did laugh in sleep, and one cried murder. They did wake each other. I stood and saw them. They did say their prayers and addressed them again to sleep.
There are two lodged together.
One cried, God bless us, and amen the other. As they had seen me with these hangman's hands. Listening their fear, I could not say amen when they did say God bless us.
Consider it not so deep.
But wherefore could I not pronounce amen? I had most need of blessing, but amen stuck in my throat.
These deeds must not be thought after these ways, so it will make us mad.
Thought I heard a voice cry, sleep no more. Macbeth does murder sleep. The innocent sleep. Sleep that knits up the ravelled sleeve of care. The death of each day's life. Sore labour's bath. Balm of hurt minds. Great nature's second course. Chief nourisher in life's feast.
What do you mean?
Still it cried, sleep no more to all the house. Glamis hath murdered sleep, and therefore Cawdor shall sleep no more. Macbeth shall sleep no more.
Who was it that thus cried? My worthy Thane, you do unbend your noble strength to think so brain-sickly of things. Go get some water and wash this filthy witness from your hand. Why did you bring these daggers from the place? They must lie there. Go carry them and smear the sleepy grooms with blood.
I'll go no more. I'm afraid to think on what I've done. Look on't again, I dare not.
Of purpose. Give me the daggers. The sleeping and the dead but are as pictures. 'Tis the eye of childhood that fears a painted devil. If he do bleed, I'll gild the faces of the grooms with all, for it must seem their guilt.
My initial instinct on reading this was, he says, you know, there's one did laugh in sleep and the other cried murder. And sort of like to go, Christ, this happened, and, you know, gee. But actually, he's so detailed in what he says. It's like he's in a kind of shock.
Yes, it's absolutely on the line, isn't it, what we've got to do, where we're going. He is in shock, and she just has to keep him together. That we heard very well. Now get at a distance, so that maybe, is it all right if Toby goes up there and you're just behind here, so that it's over a distance for the moment.
Alack, I am afraid they have awaked, and 'tis not done. The attempt and not the deed confounds us. Hark! I laid their daggers ready. He could not miss 'em. Had he not resembled my father as he slept, I had done. My husband.
I've done the deed. Didst thou not hear the noise?
I heard the owl scream and the crickets cry. Did not you speak?
When?
Now.
As I descended?
Aye.
Hark! Who lies in the second chamber?
Donalbain.
This is a sorry sight.
A foolish thing to say, a sorry sight.
As one did laugh in sleep. The other cried murder. They did wake each other. I stood and saw them. They did say their prayers and address them again to sleep.
They are too large together.
One cried, God bless us, and amen the other. As they had seen me with these hangman's hands. Listening their fear, I could not say amen when they did say God bless us.
Consider it not so deep.
But wherefore could I not pronounce amen? I had most need of blessing, but amen stuck in my throat.
These deeds must not be thought after these ways, so it will make us mad.
I thought I heard a voice cry, sleep no more. Macbeth has murdered sleep. Innocent sleep. Sleep that knits up the ravelled sleeve of care. Death of each day's life. Sore labour's bath. Balm of hurt minds. Great nature's second course. Chief nourisher in life's feast.
What do you mean?
Still it cried, sleep no more. Glamis hath murdered sleep. Therefore Cawdor shall sleep no more. Macbeth shall sleep no more.
Who was it that thus cried?
I want them to feel the need to get together. They are desperately drawn. Shared rhythm, shared imagery, speaking as one voice.
Wash this filthy witness from your hand. Why did you bring the daggers from the place? They must lie there. Go carry them and smear the sleepy grooms with blood.
I'll go no more. I'm afraid to think of what I've done. Look on again, I dare not.
In form of purpose. Give me the daggers. The sleeping and the dead are but as pictures. 'Tis the eye of childhood that fears a painted devil. If he do bleed, I'll gild the faces of the grooms withal, for it must seem his guilt.
Now I want us to look at ways of informing dialogue, of experimenting with it, of opening it up. In this scene in King Lear, Lear has come to Gloucester's castle to find his loyal Kent in the stocks. Lear has his 100 knights with him. His daughters Goneril and Regan are also there. He begs each of them in turn to give him refuge.
Art not ashamed to look upon this beard? Oh, Regan, will you take her by the hand?
Why not by the hand, sir? How have I offended? All's not offence that indiscretion finds, and dotage terms so.
Oh, sides, you are too tough. Will you yet hold? How came my man at the stocks?
I set him there, sir, but his own disorders deserved much less advancement.
You? Did you?
I pray you, Father, being weak, seem so. If till the expiration of your month you will return and sojourn with my sister, dismissing half your train, come then to me. I am now from home and out of that provision which shall be needful for your entertainment.
Return to her and 50 men dismissed. No, rather I abjure all roofs and choose to wage against the enmity of the air, to be a comrade with the wolf and owl. Necessity's a sharp pinch. Return with her? Why, the hot-blooded France that dowerless took our youngest born, I could as well be brought to knee his throne and squirrel-like pension beg to keep base life afoot. Return with her? Persuade me rather to be a slave and sumpter to this detested groom.
At your choice, sir.
I prithee, daughter, do not make me mad. I will not trouble thee, my child. Farewell. We'll no more meet, no more see one another. But yet thou art my flesh, my blood, my daughter. Or rather, a disease that's in my flesh, which I must needs call mine. Thou art a boil, a plague sore, or embossed carbuncle in my corrupted blood. But I'll not chide thee. Let shame come when it will, I do not call it. I do not bid the thunder-bearer shoot, nor tell tales of thee to high-judging Jove. Mend when thou canst, be better at thy leisure. I can be patient. I can stay with Regan, I and my 100 knights.
Not altogether so. I looked not for you yet, nor am provided for your fit welcome. Give ear, sir, to my sister, for those that mingle reason with your passion must be content to think you old, and so... But she knows what she does.
Let's do something on that now, because I want to keep that for a minute. What I want to ask Goneril and Regan to do is find something. I want you to get him to lie down and make him comfortable. And then you find sort of a piece of cloth or something, other pieces of cloth or cushions or something.
Art not ashamed to look upon this beard? Regan, will you take her by the hand?
Why not by the hand, sir? How have I offended? All's not offence that indiscretion finds, and dotage terms so.
Oh, sides, you are too tough. Will you yet hold? How came my man in the stocks?
I set him there.
Sometimes it is really instructive to do an exercise which seems to go against and contradict the motive and action in the text. It releases all sorts of ambiguities. Goneril and Regan here are trying to persuade their father to dismiss his followers. They cannot put up with his 100 knights. But in so doing, they are disempowering him, taking his identity away. So I have asked Cathy and Lolita to make Samuel comfortable and undress him gently.
Return to her and 50 men dismissed. No, rather I abjure all roofs and choose to wage against the enmity of the air, to be a comrade with the wolf and the owl. Necessity is a sharp pinch. Return with her. Why, the hot-blooded France that dowerless took our youngest born, I could as well be brought to knee his throne and squirrel like pension beg to keep base life afoot. Return with her. Persuade me rather to be slave and sumpter to this detested groom.
At your choice, sir.
I prithee, daughter, do not make me mad. I will not trouble thee, my child. Farewell. We'll no more meet, no more see one another. But yet thou art my flesh and blood, my daughter. Or rather, a disease that's in my flesh, which I must needs call mine. Thou art a boil, a plague sore, an embossed carbuncle in my corrupted blood. But I'll not chide thee. Let shame come when it will, I do not call it. I do not bid the thunder bearer shoot, nor tell tales of thee to high judging Jove. Mend when thou canst be better at thy leisure. I can be patient. I can stay with Regan. I and my 100 knights.
Not altogether so. I looked not for you yet, nor am provided for your fit welcome. Give ear, sir, to my sister. For those that mingle reason with your passion must be content to think you old, and so, well, but she knows what she does.
It is well spoken.
I dare avouch it, sir. What, 50 followers? Is it not well? Should you need of more? Yea, or so many sit that both charge and danger speak against so great a number? How in one house should many people under 2 commands hold amity? It is hard, almost impossible.
Why might not you, my lord, receive attendance from those that she calls servants? Or from mine?
Why not, my lord? If then they chance to slack ye, we could control them. If you will come to me, for now I spy a danger. I entreat you to bring but 5 and 20. To no more will I give place or notice.
I gave you all.
And in good time you gave it.
Made you my guardians, my depositaries, but kept a reservation to be followed with such a number. What, must I come to you with 5 and 20? Regan said you so?
Then speak it again, my lord, no more with me.
These wicked creatures yet do look well favored when others are more wicked. Not being the worst stands in some rank of praise. I'll go with thee, yet... No, I'll go with thee. Yet double 5 and 20, and thou art twice her love.
Hear me, my lord. What need you 5 and 20, 10 or 5, to follow in a house where twice so many have a command to tend you?
What needs one?
Oh, reason not the need. Our basest beggars are in the poorest things superfluous. Allow Tell not nature what nature needs. If only to go warm were gorgeous. Oh, I'm sorry. What nature needs. Man's life is cheap as beasties. Thou art a lady. If only to go warm were gorgeous, why nature needs not what gorgeous wearest would scarcely keep thee warm. But for true need, you heavens, give me patience. Patience I need. You see me here, you gods, a poor man, as full of grief as age, wretched in both. If it be you that stirs these daughters' hearts against these fathers, fool me not so much to bear it tamely. Touch me with noble anger, and let not woman's weapons water drops stain my man's cheeks. No, you unnatural hags! I will have such revenges on you both, that all the world shall... I will do such things I know not what they are yet I know not, but they shall be terrors of the earth. You think I'll weep? I'll not weep. I have full course of weeping, but this heart shall break into 100,000 flaws ere I'll weep. Oh, fool, I shall go mad. Get off.
They're taking his identity away, aren't they, all the time?
At first, he was so easy to get down. It was like he did everything we wanted him to do. Yeah. He resisted.
Yeah. Did he?
And I thought of spitting at him to get him to stop.
Yeah.
We don't use violence or anything, do we? But I did.
Yeah.
The image of putting him in bed was really brilliant, because it's like when you go to hospital, you're stripped of everything. You hand yourself over to these people who do everything for you, but also order you about.
And take yourself
Take
away,
your identity away.
don't they? And I do think that's what they do.
It was...
And it's easy to play them as being evil, but actually they're survivors as well. They've got to keep him down, as they will get lost, won't they? And the wonderful, you know, what need 5 and 20, what need 1? I mean, that's what we hear, isn't it? And then that's what sends him mad, is that they've taken everything away from him.
All of it.
You were taking his manhood away, his name away, really. It's who am I by the end, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, doing what I was asking you to do.
Depriving me of my people, my place, taking my
Those
stuff.
shoes.
Yeah, you take my
Do you know what really made me laugh is that he was standing there with one sock on and one sock off.
But he becomes wild and very strong because of that.
Yes. It's also very clear that there are definitely certain exercises that are beautiful and perfect for when you first are looking at a text, and this one is another one I think that is probably best when you're much more familiar with the script.
When you, when you don't,
and
exactly.
can just give yourself totally
just
to this physicality.
react to what is being done to you.
But it's beautiful. It's so much.
Because all these words are so very important.
Yeah,
the things that he says.
Oh, what a play!
Very
I mean,
important.
the bottom line, the center line of this play is what is the cause of in nature that makes these hard hearts. I mean, it's just it tears at you.
Yes.
And then at the end when he says undo this button. It's amazing, isn't it? That going from one thing to the other.
Mm-hmm.
Can we just, I am ever so anxious to have here a piece of modern text. This from Edward Bond's play Lear, an incredible play, a kind of deconstruct on King Lear. Listen to how the thoughts move and to the spaces between the thoughts. The rhythm is its power.
The king has been taken prisoner, and he's been forced to look into a mirror by his 2 daughters who defeated him in battle, and he's been made to confront his identity as a mad tyrant. Yeah. No. That's not the king. This is a little cage of bars with an animal in it. No, that's not the king. Who shut that animal in that cage? Let it out. Have you seen its face behind the bars? There's a poor animal with blood on its head and tears running down its face. Who did that to it? Is it a bird or a horse? It's lying in the dust and its wings are broken. Who broke its wings? Who cut off its hands so that it can't shake the bars? It's pressing its snout on the glass. Who shut that animal in a glass cage? Oh, God, there's no pity in this world. You let it lick the blood from its hair in the corner of a cage with nowhere to hide from its tormentors. No shadow, no hole. Let that animal out of its cage. Look. Look. Have pity. Look at its claws trying to open the cage. It's dragging its broken body over the floor. You are cruel. Cruel. Look at it lying in its corner. It's shocked and cut and shaking and licking the blood on its sides. No, no. Where are they taking it now? Not out of my sight. What will they do to it? Oh, God, give it to me. Let me hold it and stroke it and wipe its blood. No!
It's wonderful.
The imagination tells him the truth.
Yes.
When he's using all his powers to deny it or to keep it down. But it rises in front of him and he's left with this tortured image, which is the truth.
Yes.
The part of everybody that's
Absolutely.
like a little
Yes.
wounded animal.
Yes. It's
which
brilliant.
he has spent his life denying.
Yes.
And which he finally sees in this,
Yes.
when he's forced to look into the mirror, when he's defeated,
Yes.
and he has nothing left.
Andrew and I have done a few workshops with writers in the last 3 or 4 years. They've come and we've worked on Shakespeare with them, like people like Brenton and, really well-established writers. They brought a piece of their work and the actors, actors have worked on the pieces. What the actors understood from it is that a writer does not think of an image and think of a logical thing through. An image comes to the writer from somewhere. It can be from out there, it can be from inside, from all sorts of places. And they hold on to that image and then something logical happens and then they put it into, a form and into a story. But it so often comes from an image from nowhere, from something quite else. And it's a very good thing to hold on to, because I think actors have to work that way too. But you obviously have to interchange between that and then making the logical story. Could you just do that one, if we all get up and do it one more time? And you do it one more time, so we hear it. And just get round him. And maybe use us as your mirror. But in fact, we can turn away from him if he comes to us.
No. That's not the king. This is a little cage of bars with an animal in it. No, no. That's not the king. Who shot that animal in that cage? Let it out. Have you seen its face behind the bars? There's a poor animal with blood on its head and tears running down its face. Who did that to it? Is it a bird or a horse? It's lying in the dust and its wings are broken. Who broke its wings? Who cut off its hands so that it can't shake the bars? It's pressing its snout on the glass. Who shut that animal in a glass cage? Oh, God, there's no pity in this world. You let it lick the blood from its hair in the corner of a cage with nowhere to hide from its tormentors. No shadow, no hole. Let that animal out of its cage! Look! Look! Have pity! Look at its claws trying to open the cage! It's dragging its broken body over the floor. You are cruel! Cruel! Look at it lying in its corner. It's shocked and cut and bleeding and licking the blood on its sides. No. No. Where are they taking it from? Not out of my sight. What will they do to it? Oh, God, give it to me. Let me hold it and stroke it and wipe its blood. No! No! Ah!
Brilliant. Can you feel that? Right.
Yeah.
And the muscularity of that language. Now, it is those spaces between words, allowing them to drop in, allowing them to do that, which then feeds thought, which then feeds feeling, emotion, if you like, and that. Shall we break it there then? That's great. Thank you. I was talking to Edward Bond the other day, and he said something really interesting. Well, he always does. It went something like this. When you are writing, the character is breathing differently. Phrasing and everything depends on the breathing. Breathing takes priority over everything. Voice is a part of the body as much as hands or arms. The way you are breathing is what authenticates, not physical effort. And it should not surprise us that the same instincts which lie behind the playwright's original thoughts are precisely what we have been working on here today with our study of the language and the structure of their speeches to find out how they inform character and character relationships. Tape 4 is a compilation of the voice work which we did at intervals throughout the workshop. It includes exercises on breathing and rooting the voice, exercises on consonant muscularity and opening the vowels, and on head and chest resonance, and the resonance throughout the body. And you see these exercises put to practical use. It really tells the background story of these videos.